A 22-year-old Michigan woman, Rebecca Park, goes missing the night of November 3rd. She's 38 weeks pregnant, 2 weeks, give or take, from delivery. But on November 25th, 3 weeks and 1 day later, she's found dead in a national forest. She'd been stabbed to death and her unborn baby cut from her womb. And now that baby is nowhere to be found. This is a bit of a head scratcher. Somehow police still say the baby's dead, even though they don't know where the baby is. But it gets worse. Police arrest the victim's own birth mother and stepfather, who were absent for most of her life, but reconnected in 2021. Tonight, the one on the right there, that would be Cortney Bartholomew, and the one on the left there, Bradly Bartholomew, they are charged, among other things, with first-degree murder, felony murder, torture, conspiracy to torture, assault of a pregnant woman, and unlawful imprisonment. That is a mouthful, and that is also many, many years if they're guilty. A prosecutor calls the couple, and I quote, evil personified. Here's what allegedly happened. Police say they lured their daughter to their home, but put her in a truck instead and drove her into the woods and, quote, tortured Rebecca Park in an attempt to remove the unborn infant, resulting in the death of both. And when the deed was done, but while it was still a secret, birth mom, Cortney, spoke to true crime podcaster Stephanie Pratt. She told Stephanie that she had planned to visit her daughter and give her daughter some money that she'd made from selling some land. In hindsight, that may have been part of the alleged plot to lure the victim to her death.
She whispered under her breath, "Mom, you're going to have the 2,000, right?" I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay." And that was all she said.
Yeah, but that tape pops up in her trial. Podcaster also obtained a voicemail from the victim herself, which was left right around the time of her disappearance. From the grave, Rebecca Park's voice is heard telling a friend about her biological mother's plan to take her out for milkshakes and give her some money. I want you to listen closely to this exclusive voicemail never played before on TV.
Like, I'm not trying to just make it all about money, and I really don't give a but I told her that. So today she's supposed to actually give me the actual but we'll see how that goes. And which means money-wise, and go out for shakes. So we'll see.
But now we know how that went. After Rebecca Park was found slaughtered, her mom, Cortney Bartholomew, spoke to the podcaster Stephanie Pratt again. And this time, she decided to blame her daughter Rebecca's death on her other daughter. That would be Kimberly, right there on the left. But, you know, for good measure, she threw in Rebecca's fiancé, a man named Rich Fowler.
Kimmy is in jail, and so is Rich. Do you know what they're going to be charged with at the preliminary hearing?
Homicide.
Your grandson is missing. What do you think about this, the baby? Could the baby still be alive?
I hope so.
Well, none of that was true, but Kimberly Park, the victim's sister, is charged with tampering with evidence and lying to police, while Rebecca's fiancé, Richard Fowler, is charged with drug crimes. And that's curious. Joining me now with much more on all of this is Stephanie Pratt. You just saw her. It's her podcast called Steph's Case Files. Good to have you on, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here. I wanted to ask you what you think the most important information was that you learned from your interviews.
Well, I learned the timeline, which is so important. And I learned inconsistencies in the timeline that Cortney was given and the descriptions that she was giving of Rebecca getting into that mystery car on November the 3rd. And through our interviews, things started not to add up and didn't make sense. And I knew something nefarious had happened.
So tell me what you know, or at least what you suspect happened after the victim went to her family's home. Like, sort of take me moment by moment.
Sure. So on November the 3rd, 2025, Cortney went over to Rich's house, which Rich is the fiance, to pick Cortney up to take her to go for shakes. This is between 6:30 and 7 p.m. on November the 3rd. She arrives. They pick her up. This is according to Cortney herself and her own timeline. By 7:30, they're back at home. And Cortney said that they sat in the driveway and planned the baby shower. And then all of a sudden, a car pulled up. And Rebecca said, "Mom, I have somebody coming to get me." And Cortney said, "What do you mean? Who's coming to get you?" And she said that Rebecca took the $2,000, all in $100 bills, put it in a pocket, and got in the mystery car and drove away. That was the last time she claims that she saw her. But the interesting part is she says that happened around 8:30. And by 11 o'clock, she was calling Rich, the fiance, so many times in a row to try to get his attention, but he was asleep at home. So they set up this whole thing to have Rich ping the phone so that they could find the phone. And then when they found the phone, that's when the timeline began of where is Rebecca and her baby.
Can I jump in for a moment, too? And I'm just going to ask our control room to put that graphic up with all four of the faces again so that we can get real clarity. It's confusing. So Cortney Bartholomew is the biological mom. And, of course, you're not seeing on the screen Rebecca, the victim here. But Rebecca's mom is Cortney Bartholomew. And Bradly Bartholomew is her husband. And then Kimberly Park is the victim's sister. And Richard Lee Fowler is the victim's fiance. But is it true that Cortney, that mom, also dated that fiance of her daughter?
Yes, that is true. They dated until 2023, from what I understand. And Rebecca, who was 22, started dating Rich. They became engaged, and she became pregnant.
Okay. So next question. You did some interviews before and after Rebecca's body was found. How did things change from this mom, Cortney, as to what she told you before Rebecca was found and what she told you after Rebecca was found dead?
Well, it's interesting because she repeated this timeline of this mystery car. And I kept asking her, "Cortney, that doesn't make any sense. She wouldn't last very long on the road with only $2,000. Do you think that she left Rich?" And Cortney was adamant that she left Rich to get away from his ways. But she didn't want to search. She said that she was disabled and in the wheelchair. I noticed that. But I also noticed as time went on, when protesters started protesting in front of the home, she became agitated and wanted to schedule a search at approximately 11 a.m. on November the 25th, when Rebecca was found. She came out to her driveway the day before. She set it up. They met at the house. And sure enough, right where she pointed is where they found Rebecca's body, which, by the way, wasn't there the day before when that area had been searched. So Rebecca had been moved overnight.
So she said something also after Rebecca's body was found, something about losing a child. Can you explain what she told you?
Yes. So after Rebecca's body was found, she came on for another interview. And this time she was more emotional, saying that no one knows what it's like to lose a child, quote unquote. And I found it peculiar that she was soaking in this support, trying to find her grandson. And all this time, she knows and knew where they were.
Here's the other thing that I couldn't, well, I guess I could believe it because I couldn't figure out why a mom would do something like this to her own biological daughter, cut a fetus out while that daughter is alive. But you learned something that might point to motive. What was it?
Well, we know that Cortney Bartholomew sent a message from her Facebook to someone telling them that she had a baby in the NICU, born early, and he was having trouble breathing. This is in October, just before Rebecca goes missing. And I asked her about that. I confronted her. She denied sending it, although it is from her Facebook account. And what I allege, everything is alleged. What I feel has happened here is that because she talked to me about wanting to have a baby with Brad, she even talked about her 14-year-old son wanting to have a sibling. And all of this was set up right around the time that Rebecca went into sort of a premature labor. She went to the hospital. It wasn't quite time. This was the day before she went missing. So I feel like the premeditation charge that came in on Cortney was because she must have researched how to do this botched C-section in the middle of the woods. In the process, the baby died. Ooh. But I feel like that they were trying to take the baby and keep the baby for their own.
Well, I will be waiting for those first few hearings to see if they release any evidence of Google searches, because that very often can do a lot of people in. And when you've got this many people allegedly involved, there may be a lot of communication. And if there's that, intricate an operation that might have been required, that would be something that could show up. Boy, is it ever good that you're here. It's very complicated. Stephanie Pratt, great job at getting those interviews. And I really do believe that your interviews are going to be a huge part of any trial or case against them. Thanks so much for this.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.